Hello chemistry students, we're going to continue our study of stoichiometry, or the relationships among compounds that participate in reactions, by doing a little kitchen chemistry. Welcome to Fun with Baking Soda. And as you can read at the top of the page, baking soda is a really important ingredient, especially in baking, because as it decomposes in the heat of the oven, it forms carbon dioxide, which causes the dough to rise. So let's write out the balanced equation for the decomposition of baking soda, because you know a balanced equation is always what you need to start with whenever you do stoichiometry problems. So our balanced equation is 2 moles of sodium bicarbonate, and this is a solid, decomposes to form sodium carbonate, which is also a solid, plus carbon dioxide, which is a gas, plus water, which is actually water vapor and also a gas. So let's take a look at number 1. As we study our equation above, how many moles of sodium carbonate do you produce when you decompose 2 moles of sodium bicarbonate? Well, all you have to do is look at the coefficients that are found in front of each of the compounds that are mentioned in the question. So if we decompose 2 moles of sodium bicarbonate, we end up with only 1 mole of sodium carbonate. And you can tell that just from the equation. Number 2, if you had 10 moles of sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda, how many moles of sodium carbonate would you produce? So there are 2 ways that you can do this. You can first take a look at your equation and notice that however much sodium bicarbonate you start with, you should end up with half that amount of sodium carbonate. So 2 moles changes to 1 mole. So in this case, if you start with 10 moles, half of 10 is 5, and you should get 5 moles of sodium carbonate. But you could also do this mathematically. So let me show you how to do that. So always start with what you're given in the problem, which in this case is 10 moles of sodium carbonate. And now we're going to multiply that by the mole ratio that's in our equation. Since I have moles of sodium carbonate here, I'm going to put moles of sodium carbonate on the bottom so that I can cross it out when I do my math operation. And the number that goes here is the coefficient from the equation, which is 2. I'm comparing it to sodium carbonate, so I'm going to write moles of sodium carbonate. Oops, forgot a 2 there. And if I look back at my equation, I don't have any number in front of sodium carbonate, and so that means that I have 1 mole of sodium carbonate in my equation. So now to perform this operation, I'm going to cross out moles of sodium bicarbonate, and I'm going to multiply 10 times 1, and that's going to give me 10 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And what is 10 divided by 2? Well, it's 5, of course, and that's exactly what we started off with at the beginning of the problem. So you can solve some of these using logic. Now, let's say that you wanted to make 7 moles of sodium carbonate. We need to know how many moles of sodium bicarbonate you would need to start with. And once again, since however much sodium carbonate you want is half of how much sodium bicarbonate you need to start with, your answer here should be 14. But let's just go through the math. to show you. So again, we always start with what we're given. And in this case, we're given 7 moles of sodium carbonate. And we're going to multiply this by the mole ratio because we're changing just from moles to moles, so we don't have to do anything with molar mass calculations yet. So since I have moles of sodium carbonate here, I'm going to put that at the bottom so I can cancel it out. And the number that goes next to it comes from the equation. On top, I'm going to put the moles of the compound that I'm looking for, and in this problem, the compound I'm looking for is sodium bicarbonate, and the coefficient in, the coefficient in front of that compound is a 2 according to my equation. So now I'm going to cross out my moles of sodium carbonate. I'm left with moles of sodium bicarbonate, which is exactly what I'm looking for in the problem. And now I multiply across. 7 times 2 is 14. And I'm going to divide that by the number 1, which gives me 14 moles of, here's my compound, sodium bicarbonate. And that's exactly what we said at the very start of this problem when we were solving it with logic. Okay, great. We just finished the first part of Fun with Baking Soda. We're going to move on to the kitchen now, where we're going to decompose some sodium bicarbonate to make some sodium carbonate. See you soon.